Good morning, Canada. Welcome back to another episode of Question Period. Today's October 9th, 2024. And holy smokes, totes my goats, folks. Shit is this close from hitting the fan. You got the block that is just about ready. They're saying we don't have exactly what we want, and there's no signs that we're getting what we want. And so we are very, very close to calling the election. Wow, this is going to be insane. Plus, based off of what happened yesterday, how you had the unlawful and abuse of power by Greg Fergus for suspending Pierre Poilievre from the House for a full day. He's back today. They're coming back with a vengeance already. They got a petition that's ready to go to kick Fergus out, to fire him. It's craziness what's going on, folks. It's craziness. Shit has hit the fan. C'est tout fini, as they say. All right, this is going to be wild. So get your likes and get your coffees. Get ready. Block are just peacocking and that's it. Well, they're cocking, I'll tell you that. There's definitely cock involved with the block. All right, we got some stuff ready to go here. So question period does start in about 30 minutes or so. But I've got some clips pulled up. We've got some recaps of yesterday for those that missed it. So just get comfortable. Get comfortable, whether you're at home, nestle in your couch, go pour yourself a nice coffee, or if you're at work, tell your boss to F off and leave you alone because you're watching the news. Well, I'm not the news, but we're going to watch the news together. All right. So smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not already. This channel is going parabolic, folks. What are we at? 117,000? Hold on. I'm looking at the wrong channel. I got too many channels here. 400,000? No, that's the other channel. 117,200. 117,200. That's crazy. We might hit 118 today on the stream. All right. All righty. Looks like you might have been too slow with your petition. Hey. No. That's okay. It's okay. All good in the hood. No worries. 109 is your check-in number. Yeah, smash that like button. We got 500 people in here. Let me know what your check-in number is for the likes and for the views. Your French accent? No. Français, c'est ma première langue, so I can say whatever the hell I want in whatever accent that I want. All right, here we go. You guys should be following me on X as well. Things are pretty wild over there. So I posted this on X this morning. Pierre's suspension is lifted today. He will be in the House, likely taking a strong stance against the corrupt Liberal government. The deadline for the block is now. They haven't received what they want. It's time for a final vote of non-confidence. Yesterday, I had some posts, some X posts, some tweets, some X-tweet posts, whatever they're called, that just kind of blew up. Such as this one here. Breaking, Melanie Joly just admitted that it's okay under free speech to go ahead and call for the death of Canadians in the streets. I can't believe this. That's a fact, man. That is a fact. Look, and that's not me saying, oh, what do you mean? That infringes on my rights. I wish I could go and do that same thing. No, not at all. I'm not a degenerate. I have no desire or ambitions to go and call for the death of anybody in the streets of anywhere. It's just insane that the people that were doing that. So yesterday when Pierre was talking in the press conference before Parliament began, before he knew that he was getting kicked out, he mentioned Saudaman, right? It sounded like a Lord of the Rings thing. Saudaman, Sauron. Okay, he was referring to the group of people that were calling for the death of Canadians in Vancouver, and they have been banned from Germany because they have direct ties to Hamas. So there's like a chick with like a buzz cut or something like that, right? Maybe not a chick. Sorry, a person, a human being who was calling for the death of Canadians with a buzz cut, who was burning the Canadian flag. Those people, that group, Sauron, Samidun, there you go, Sauron. Holy crap, man! I'm getting all Sudan. I'm getting all the freaking words mixed up here. You know what I'm trying to say? There's only one group of people that was in Vancouver the night of October 7th, calling for the death of Canadians. By now, everyone should have seen it. Yeah, so that group has direct ties to Hamas. That's why they've been banned from Germany. Our freaking RCMP and CSIS are investigating the matters. And Mélanie Joly has the freaking balls, the ball-sized ovaries to say, well, we must protect free speech and the Charter of Rights in Canada. What? But didn't you people... Pulling a Don Cherry here. Didn't you people call for beating up families that were waving Canadian flags, that were playing hockey in the streets in the wintertime with some trucks going honk honk? Like, what do you mean protect freedom of speech? Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences, right? Like, you can't just call for the death of people in the, first of all, like anywhere, the death of people anywhere is a horrible thing, unless you're, listed as a terrorist or you're a pedo. Like that's, yeah, sure, shoot, get rid of them. But other than that, other than those exceptions, you can't come to Canada here and call for the death of Canadians, like get away with it. That's absolutely insane. But they're protected by our government. Our government say, no, they have the right to say that. I couldn't freaking believe that. So that post on X, that tweet on X, that post on Twitter X, that X tweet post had done pretty well. Got like 80-some thousand views. So it is hard to believe. It's really, really hard to believe. And look, when I see this stuff happening, I'm my own belief system, how I was raised, everything that's true to my core is just being like shattered in front of me. And I feel conspiratorial when I'm watching it. Like not that I watch it and I look for, clickbait things within it. But when I hear what they're saying, Mélanie Joly literally said, there's a lot of anti-Semitism that's happening in Canada, and we're trying to address it. But also, we need to respect people's freedom of speech. She quite literally admitted that it's okay for Saruman or whatever group the hell they were in Vancouver that has quite literal ties to Hamas to go and say that. So it's insane. And I don't understand how anyone can support them. Everyone has family or friends, a combination of both that, is on that spectrum of liberal leaning, right? Or liberal supporters. And I don't understand how you can live in Canada, vote for a Canadian politician, pay Canadian taxes, have a Canadian job, and say, yeah, I respect people's ability to call for the death of Canadians, my fellow brothers and sisters, my friends and family in this country, and I support their decision to do that. Like that's just craziness. But nonetheless, let's keep going here. So then you've got this that's kind of getting out of control. So yesterday, the Conservatives want Speaker Fergus fired after Poilievre censored in the House of Commons. The Conservatives are calling for House Speaker Greg Fergus to be fired after he banned Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre from speaking in the House of Commons over accusations of unparliamentary language. And that's the whole thing that, am I sharing my screen? Yeah, okay, we're good. That's the whole thing of where Pierre Poilievre said to Mélanie Joly, you are pandering to Hamas supporters. You're pandering to Hamas by not taking action in a firm stance and calling for government intervention in literal the glorification of terrorist entities. You're supporting them, and that's a truthful thing. So Pierre, you know what? I thought about this and how to spin it, and I forget who I was talking to, but Pierre, this is a fun spin. You ready for this? Pierre got awarded a day off of work for telling the truth. I like that. I like that outlook. I'm going to post that on X right now. Pierre got awarded a day off of work. Pierre got awarded a day off of work for telling the truth. There you go. Boom. I like that a lot. Let's get some W's in the chat for Pierre telling the truth. That's just a fun little way of putting a spin on it, eh? All right. So Fergus ruled that Poilievre could not speak in the House for the remainder of Tuesday after he refused to withdraw the truthful comments that Foreign Affairs Minister... See, it's right in her name. This is why I call her Trudeau's mistress, right? Affairs Minister. Foreign Affairs Minister. She is Trudeau's mistress when they're away out of Canada on foreign territory, foreign affairs minister continues to pander to Hamas. Poilievre made the remark during a heated exchange the day before when Affairs Minister Joly refused to denounce specific slogans used by anti-Israel protesters. Fergus initially asked Poilievre to withdraw the allegations, saying that accusations of pandering had already been determined to be unparliamentary. He had noted in this ruling that the incident marked the third time that Poilievre had unparliamentary language during question period. Fergus first issued Poilievre the punishment of being named a means of saying he had been asked to leave the chamber. Following the punishment, Fergus then docked a number of questions the Conservative Party could ask before ultimately telling Poilievre that his continued refusal to withdraw his remark was his third strike. He knows that in our system, the role of the leader of the opposition is to ask questions to the ministry to ensure that it is held accountable for its actions and to challenge its decisions, wrote Fergus in his ruling. And so Fergus has just been so inconsistent with this, because this is what, the third time that he's been booted out of or penalized in Parliament. He got kicked out for saying wacko. He got kicked out for something else. I can't remember what the hell it was. And then he gets suspended for a day for this. It's just so crazy. And then Trudeau accuses what was it? Garnett, a genius, or someone from the Conservative Party, of making the homophobic slurs, and nothing, right? Nothing, no repercussions. So it's just so friggin' unfair. His role is not to make the government comfortable, quite the contrary, but his actions must also be exercised within the existing boundaries of parliamentary decorum. Poilievre did not appear in the chamber at the start of question period, but instead had Deputy Leader Melissa Lantsman handle the first round of questions. The Conservatives responded by accusing Fergus of acting in a non-partisan nature, which is required of the role of the House Speaker to ensure fairness and neutrality. Right, and that's why they're pretty much calling for his removal. They want him gone. Shish kebab, get out of here, right? And of course, I mean, I'll pass the question off to you guys down in the live stream, down in the live chat, but let me know if Fergus should be removed as House Speaker and replace it with somebody else who doesn't have a long-standing history of, ethics violations and all of that good stuff. And then you have the Bloc Québécois here that says we're very close to calling the election.
Is there any other solutions that you think you could find with the Liberals to support them?
The solution is very simple. It is so simple that I do not know what more I could explain. They only have to proceed or find themselves another way out of this, but they know how we will behave. And I believe that in the couple made by the NDP and Liberals, one of the two went to sleep on the couch. They might have to welcome this group back in the bedroom, but one of the two will be tied to the bed, and I don't know which one. I'm not sure if I were a Liberal, I would want to go back into that situation.
There might be now a week deadline following the vote on last week's motion. We're now almost at the end of that week, so I'm wondering, where are things at? Are you
Our calculations say that there's still time to...
It's as loud as it goes. So that's my biggest piece of advice here for this X account, government corrupt. Dude, your clips are so low volume. Like it's jacked up as high as it goes. And the same with OBS. Sorry guys. Okay, now let's do the recap of yesterday. Let me turn the volume down before it hurts everyone. Oh, it's muted.
By these radical mobs. And I said, would you just condemn it? From the river to the sea, she wouldn't condemn that. Israel will soon be gone. She wouldn't condemn that. There's only one solution, intifada, revolution. She wouldn't condemn that. She wouldn't even affirm Israel's right to retaliate against other countries attacking it. she should apologize.
We'll continue to denounce any form of anti-Semitism that is happening on our streets, in our schools, against hospitals, synagogues, etc. What we saw yesterday was the height of hypocrisy. Well, he's saying that he's fighting anti-Semitism. He never condemned those who were waving a Nazi flag during the Freedom Convoy on this Parliament Hill. Why didn't he?
So that had like nothing to do with the convoy. That's just such a wild accusation. He never condemned Nazi flag. Of course they did. Of course the Conservative Party did. Like she's in full fucking Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. She's in full panic mode right now. They're just throwing literally everything at the wall and trying to see what sticks. It's blatant lies. It's absolutely blatant lies. It's not even mis and disinformation. It's just straight up freaking lying. It's so ridiculous that they're allowed to do this. This is politics now. They just lie right to the camera. Our elected officials that represent us at the national level and the global stage, they just literally lie about each other.
Tempering her response to anti-Semitic rhetoric for political reasons. Jolie accused the Tory leader of gaslighting. The Conservative leader did not withdraw those comments and was barred as a consequence from speaking in the House for the day. Here's a bit of what question period did sound like today.
I want to start by noting the events in Vancouver yesterday at a protest. We unequivocally condemn those events and those actions. It is absolutely unacceptable to burn the Canadian flag and to chant "Death to Canada." It is also unacceptable to deny and celebrate the events of October 7th and to champion the acts of a terrorist group.
Glad that they found the courage to condemn something in this House, but whatever is in those documents, back to the matter at hand that I asked about, must be really bad if they're willing to hide the corruption.
Let's bring in the front bench to talk about this with me tonight. Former New Brunswick Liberal Premier Brian Gallant. He's the CEO of Space Canada now. Former Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt. She's the Vice Chair and Managing Director of Global Investment Banking at CIBC. CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair is here, as is the Toronto Star's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Rob Benzie. Hi, everybody. Very good to see you.
I hate when you can hear people smile.
Sitting with you right now.
This is one of the most desperate rhetorical tricks that Pierre Poilievre has resorted to any number of times over the years. I've seen him use it before. He stands up and he says, basically, he's become Simon Says. I'm going to now say something that somebody said in the street, and you, Madam Minister, you're going to say that it's horrible. Yesterday, I think Mélanie Joly struck a very decent tone. It was a very somber day in the House. We were talking about the horrific attacks, the terrorist attacks by Hamas that killed 1,200 Israelis, citizens, on October 7th a year ago. And she stood up and named the Canadians that had been killed in that. And it was just, I think, just the right tone. Poilievre started going after her, as we just saw there again. Oh, well, there's people in a crowd. I've read that they've said this, so you have to denounce that. It's some sort of bizarre guilt by association. It's an attempt to try to drag her into something that's him. Now, I don't doubt for one second that Mélanie Joly has in some ways been tempering Canada's reaction on these incredibly difficult issues. I know where I stand on them. And I also know that Canada's reaction under the Trudeau government, including Mélanie Joly's reaction, has been up and down. There'd be one reaction from Bill Blair, a completely different one from Mélanie Joly, and Trudeau would say something else, especially in reaction to the outlandish accusation of genocide, in my view, by South Africa. The response from the Canadian government was incomprehensible. And when I spoke to Mélanie Joly about it personally, what she said to me was, well, look at the demographics of my writing, which is an indication that personal politics is indeed influencing Canadian foreign policy. So it is a huge problem. But for Poilievre to go over, to make that association between Liberals and Hamas, I mean, that's what he said. This is a terrorist group under the criminal code. And he said, they are mollycoddling Hamas terrorists that are in the Liberal Party. It made no sense whatsoever. It was completely fanciful, absolutely over the top, unhinged, and it is pure Poilievre. And I honestly believe that at some point, Canadians are going to start to get tired of it.
If I take Tom's point...
That's just extremely delusional, man. Like, Canadians are tired. Tom Mulcair is a hit or miss. He's a hit or miss. He's defended the House Speaker, Greg Fergus, and he's gotten to the point where he says, look, I can't defend this guy anymore. He keeps doing the wrong thing. People that live in this country do not want to hear death to Canadians. As someone who was born in Canada, hell, even if you immigrated legally to Canada and you've established roots here, like, good job, congratulations, and you're assimilating, awesome. You don't want people coming here that have alternative motives to say death to all Canadians. That's freaking insane. So no, Poilievre is raising awareness to what is going on while you have Mélanie Joly, who dresses up like a freaking little action figure that she thinks that she is and LARPs. She role plays. That's what she does in politics. She's just role playing, right? She's extra charismatic and she just really thinks that she's in like a movie or something like that, right? These people are nuts. They're freaking nuts. You can't say, first of all, I know it's not illegal to burn a Canadian flag, but people have been arrested for burning or tearing up a pride flag in Canada. Like, come on. The pride flag holds more litigious standing than what the Canadian flag does? Are you freaking kidding me? Come on, Tom. Get your head out of your ass.
Brian, it's that there is some truth to the criticism of the government that they have tempered their response to anti-Semitism because of political interest, but that Mr. Poilievre took it too far. Do you agree with that assessment or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a time and place to ask those questions, and I'm kind of two minds. One is the day itself, obviously, as Tom rightfully pointed out, requires some thought, requires some sensitivity to how you approach the subject on that day. I think that is something that all elected officials should think about when they're in that type of circumstance. And again, Tom eloquently talked about that and how Minister Joly tried to sort of rise to that moment and have the right tone. That said, one of the things that's kind of difficult in this sort of scenario is during question period, to your point in your preamble, Vashi, the leader of the opposition is asking questions to kind of bring out the politics of this matter. And to be fair, that's what you do in question period. You definitely do that. But it's with the backdrop of it being on the anniversary of that horrendous day. So certainly a lot of sort of nuance and things that are mixed in there together. The one thing that it felt to me watching, and I only watched sort of clips, I didn't watch it live, the minister wanted to have the ability to speak in the right tone, which I agree. I think it was the right tone. And I think she wanted to just leave it at that, right? And Poilievre obviously is trying to sort of get some political points with question period on the topic. And I think Joly wasn't interested in engaging. So that also created a bit of a vacuum at one point in the discussion. So all that to say, I think what Canadians will hear, unfortunately, is a process thing. People are going to be saying, and
these people are so dumb, man. They're so dumb. Look, if you see anyone or hear anyone that's saying death to Canadians and they're burning Canadian flags, they're not good people. That's just horrible, no matter how you try to spin it. And I'm not saying that we should be, doing anything to these people, but the government should absolutely be condemning it and taking action when it's found out that those people have freaking ties to terrorist organizations, recognized terrorist organizations, not make-believe things, real terrorist organizations that the Canadian government, that CSIS, that the RCMP, that Interpol recognize as terrorist organizations. This is nuts. It's nuts. Crime is literally glorified in Canada. Bad behavior is rewarded in Canada. It's insane. If you're a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen that goes about your day and you just kind of, watch the news and you're like, wow, this is nuts, you're the bad guy. You're the bad guy. These people are you can go burn the flag and call death to Canadians in Canada. Like, that's just mind-blowing, man. And then the fact that the government is aware of it, the standing government, and that they're not saying, look, we're going to investigate these people. That's what they should be doing. That's exactly what they should be saying. We're going to investigate these people and we're going to take appropriate action. Because no, you can't come to this country and call for the death of Canadians, right? And so I saw someone in the live chat say it was illegal to burn flags whether it is now or not, I don't know if it currently is. I've seen that it isn't illegal currently to burn a flag. So I guess it's within their right to do that. But that's not a good person to burn the flag of a country you're living in. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah. Anyways, let's keep watching this here. Question period's going to start soon, folks, or else we'd be watching that. Don't worry.
And the Tories will obviously, I think, kind of spin and push the fact that Poilievre was silenced today. And I think that kind of goes into a narrative that's probably politically helpful for Poilievre's base. I'm not sure it's necessarily helpful for Canadians at large, but certainly I think it would resonate with the base. So that I think is what's probably going to seep through when people are trying to decipher what happened over the last 24 hours.
It feels like the speaker is sort of aware of that perception, because in the release that he put out announcing this, or the wording of what he said, he made sure he referenced a similar decision he made against a Liberal MP as well, when he had accused the Conservatives of sort of nefarious action where Ukraine and Russia is concerned. So it was interesting that he put it all into the same statement. Lisa, how do you fall on this one?
So I think I'm going to have it a different way, I think. I agree with Tom that this is an age-old ploy used in politics, asking the opposition or asking the government to condemn something that you want them to condemn. Where I think the ball was dropped is I do believe that the Liberal government mishandled the question period lineup. I don't believe that the minister, if she does have concerns about her local riding, was the best place to answer the question, because indeed she didn't. Who did a great job, both yesterday and today, is the Minister of Justice. I think he hit the right tone. I think he said the right things, and that would have made the whole issue go away. The second part, though, is the speaker. And I'm reminded of a quote from James Carville. I watched his documentary on the weekend, and he said, the worst thing you can do in politics is confirm an existing suspicion. That's exactly what the speaker did. He confirmed the suspicion that Conservatives had, that he is not even-handed. He may have quoted the Yvonne Baker matter, but he didn't talk about the Prime Minister saying pandering to white supremacists as he did back in May.
There you go.
So all around, bad handling of the situation, falling into the trap that the Conservatives laid for them. And quite frankly, the minister should be able to condemn, just like the Minister of Justice condemned.
So Justin Trudeau can accuse Pierre Poilievre of pandering to white nationalists, and he's even said Dagalon like a bajillion times. It's come out of the Prime Minister's mouth. That's absolutely insane. So the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau himself, can call on Pierre Poilievre, accuse Pierre during question period of pandering to white nationalist extremists, but Pierre can't accuse or do the exact same thing towards Trudeau or the Liberal government for pandering to Hamas. Now, why would that be? Well, it's because Hamas is a literal terrorist organization, and Dagalon is a joke, or it's a joke group that, skirts the line of, whatever, right? Like they're not, I don't believe that they're listed. They tried to be listed, or not they tried. The government tried to list them as a terrorist organization, but it didn't work. So it's just nuts. Like the hypocrisy is absolutely insane. And like, it's all happening in front of our eyes, man. I can't believe this. I'm sorry. I can't believe this. And my tolerance for liberals, people that support this, this government is, it's becoming thinner and thinner. Not that I meet people or have, friends that's, like, hey man, I'm going to vote Liberal, or I still support Liberals. Not that I would come out the gate and say, look, you're an absolute moron. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? But it definitely crosses my mind. And I want to have the restraint to not get to that point. But man, it's so difficult. It's so difficult when I'm watching what's happening and I'm seeing the hypocrisy and the corruption that, and the different standards that the Liberals can say and fling shit at Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party. And then the world is like, oh yeah, we believe him because he's the freaking government, right? Pierre does the exact same thing, and all of a sudden, oh, how dare he? He's breaking all the rules. You need to punish him and suspend him. Like, what the hell is wrong with you people? Oh my goodness. This CTV panel is the freaking worst. It's absolutely the worst. And I actually, just to freaking anger people some more, I've got a couple things pulled up here. Just give me 1 second. All right. So First of all, this tripped me out. This very much tripped me out. The CN Tower was brought down to the ground for repairs. That tripped me out, man. That tripped me out when I just seen that. That's my account made in Canada. It's fake. It's fake, folks. It's fake. Don't worry. Somebody who's high went out to check, and no, the CN Tower did not come down. But that did freak me out. And then it turns out that our Liberal government is sending more money for aid to the Middle East. This was just announced like 30 minutes ago.
This conflict is taking a terrible toll on civilians in Lebanon and beyond. And people in Lebanon were already dealing with a prolonged political, economic, and humanitarian crisis even before this new crisis. For humanitarian organizations on the ground, including some who are represented here today, the conflict has put additional strains on their systems of distributing humanitarian aid and even operating within the country. So the suffering must end. We must return to the path of lasting peace and security for Israelis, Lebanese, and Palestinian civilians, and many others across the region. Hundreds of thousands of people now need urgent support, and Canada, as in the past, is responding and will respond. As of today, Canada has committed $25 million to support a humanitarian response to assist the most vulnerable civilians in Lebanon. This includes
25 stacks. 25 million stacks Canada is sending to Lebanon. Are you kidding me, bro? Where? Folks, please tell me in the comments, where are we getting this money? Where is the $25 million coming from to just casually send to Lebanon, the most vulnerable? So the LGBTQSLI plus, or if you identify, we're sending humanity 25 million. 25 million. Instead of fixing our at least solve one town for 20. You could solve 2 towns homeless population. You could solve 2 towns homeless population. You could do maybe Vancouver and maybe Montreal or some shit like that. You put $25 million into rehabilitation, get the people off the streets, stop the safe drug supply stuff. $25 million, boom, 2 major towns are fixed, right? Maybe it costs 25, or maybe 1 town. And then 1 town is better. And then we're in the right direction. For Canada, 25 million stacks to go to the Middle East. Where the hell are we getting this money from? This doesn't make any sense.
Includes $15 million in new funding that I'm announcing today that will help experienced and trusted humanitarian organizations on the ground respond to the needs of civilians in Lebanon and scale up their response to provide even more support to people who are in urgent need of that support.
Where the fuck are we getting the money from, folks? Haven't we sent billions to Ukraine? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Where the hell are we getting this money from? 25 million just casually. And that's just right now. That's not including what's going to happen in the near future. This is nuts, man. This is nuts. I don't know, folks. This stresses me out, man. This is why I've got a gray. This is why my beard is turning gray. Right there, you see it? It's sticking out. Right there. I need to put it against contrast. Right there. Right there. You can kind of see it. Right there. Right there. There it is. This is why my beard is turning gray. Oh my goodness, man. My hair is starting to turn gray, I feel like. Holy crap. This is stressful. Holy smokes, this is stressful. Andrew Lepensi with the $2 saying they're manufacturing debt that they will sell. Oh, dude, it's so stressful. Oh my goodness. Oh, I feel like I need to unplug from the news because it's just one day after another. It's just so freaking stressful, right? Oh my goodness. $400 million slush fund. Yeah, I guess, right? Holy crap. And then speaking of stressful, Greg Fergus was spotted outside of Parliament. The right blend on X, or I guess Chris Dacey Media. He's over here. And just now, Greg Fergus said Canadians should have confidence in what he's done after he banned the Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre from speaking in the House. Look at that. I'll follow him. That's his second account. Holy smokes, man. Let's look at this here. Oh, God, this show is so freaking stressful. Whew. I don't know if it's coffee, but my palms are sweating. Or if it's the news.
Mr. Fergus. Yes, sir. Canadians have some serious concerns about what's going on here in the House of Commons. Yes, sir. We've got the Liberal government, Justin Trudeau and their government, refusing to turn over documents to the RCMP.
That's a question you'll have to ask
the
government.
And now the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, not able to speak in here based on comments that he made. We have a bit of concerns about impartiality. It wasn't too long ago Justin Trudeau basically called the Conservative caucus homophobic. You didn't give him the same treatment as you gave the leader of the opposition. Should Canadians be concerned about your impartiality?
I think Canadians can have confidence in my impartiality. Thank you.
He didn't even stop to look at him either, eh? Like, the House Speaker, they're walking around like they're freaking celebrities or something, right? Like, you're a government official, bro. Not that you are obliged to stop and answer questions to everybody that asks you one, but, I mean, he didn't even look, from my understanding, I mean, unless I'm tripping out, man, unless I blinked for too long, the House Speaker didn't even look at Chris Dacey. Maybe because he's seen him on a regular basis, right? Because I think there's some of the people, some of the folks down there are called Wellington regulars, right? Like self-identified as Wellington regulars. So maybe he recognizes his face and doesn't want to give him the time of day because he knows it's going towards the radical right side, the extreme conservative side of the algorithm. And I don't know, but nonetheless, man, these people are nuts and they're freaking stressing me the hell out. I think they're starting in the House. Let me check. Nope. No, they're not. Not yet. Okay, let's continue this disgusting panel. It's almost done. They're opening up the House right now. They're filing in. They're playing the music. I mean, we could take a look at it, but it's just a green screen right now.
Well, it is interesting that Lisa points out Minister Varani today, who was like, unequivocal, yes, those chants are wrong. Yes, we are like he went out of his way to specifically condemn that. That would have been, in some world, if that had come from Melanie Joly very simply yesterday, potentially that would have in turn tempered Poilievre. Though I don't know if that's a guarantee. Because you never know 100%. But certainly there is a contrast between how she responded and how Minister Varani today did.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, Bashi. Arif Varani was more circumspect and I guess more of a grown-up about it. She was more partisan, I guess, in her own way. But Poilievre was also very partisan. I thought yesterday, to Tom's point earlier, it's a remembrance day, a kind of a day, October 7th. And it's a time for somber reflection. And I thought that Mr. Poilievre was very, very partisan. I understand why. I get that. But what I don't understand is when is he going to transition from auditioning to be opposition leader and auditioning to be prime minister? And I think he needs to start to look like more of a statesman on things. I actually thought Melanie Joly looked more like the next prime minister than Mr. Poilievre did these last 2 days. So I mean, and maybe the Liberals' fortunes would be better if Joly were the leader rather than Trudeau, because they could barely get much worse than they are right now. But it's not a good look for the country, to what Brian was saying earlier. This is a time when I think all Canadians, or most Canadians, feel really, really uncomfortable with what's happened the last year or so. Very sad situation in Israel, obviously very sad situation in Gaza. But I would close by saying, Bashi, and note that this country outlawed Hamas and designated them a terrorist organization under a Liberal government more than 20 years ago.
All right, these people are freaking nuts. Are you kidding me? I mean, Melanie Joly is prime minister. Dude, she thinks that she's, like I said before, she thinks that she's a freaking action figure. Like, she's just so over dramatic. She LARPs. Nothing of what she says or does actually seems genuine. I don't understand how she could be, not to defend Trudeau. Well, actually, you know what? Give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? Out with Trudeau, in with Joly. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. All right, they're just singing "O Canada" right now. They're singing "O Canada." They're going to be done here in a second. Holy smokes, folks. Oh, God, I'm freaking stressed, and question period hasn't even started. Whew, take a breather. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to read off some super chats here. Saver25 of the 2 saying some W's in the chat for Mr. Sunshine Baby. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, here we go.
Que l'on ouvre les portes, let the doors be open. Statements by members, déclarations.
Get your likes in, folks. Let's see if we can get over
from Don Valley.
over 1,000 likes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. October 6 marks the Electrical Injury Day of Recognition, an initiative led by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the Canadian Electrical Contractors Association, the National Electrical Trades Council, and other industry groups. This day is dedicated to raising awareness about the dangers of electric shock injuries, which can have long-term health effects with no cure. Proper awareness and safe work practices are essential to preventing these injuries and ensuring the safety of tradespeople. Key safety practices include establishing an electrical safe work condition by isolating electrical equipment, testing for absence of voltage, and using lockout, tagout protocols. I want to thank the organizations behind the Electrical Injury Day of Recognition for their
Andrew LePence with the 2. George Soros country collapsing tactics used by JT. Could very well be.
The honourable member from Simcoe Grey.
Mr. Speaker, this year marks the 10th anniversary of the Small Halls Festival.
Steel City Angling.
Week festival with events.
Thank you for the 2. Will the carbon tax election be before the new year? I hope so.
Centers, outdoor stages, and churches.
We're going to find out this week, maybe even today, where the block stands.
Nottawa, Sunnydale Corners, Brentwood, Dunedin, and Steiner will each host different events. Whether it's whiskey or wine tasting,
Miss Magical, the $6.99.
food pairing, chicken races,
saying vote PPC.
car shows, a do-it-yourself.
Hey, you're definitely entitled to that opinion.
Or music or art shows of any styles and varieties. There really is something for everyone at the Small Halls festivals. Congratulations to Mayor Doug Measures, Deputy Mayor Paul Van Stavern, Clearview Township Council, and the more than 250 community volunteers and sponsors who make the festival possible. Come to Clearview Township to celebrate the best of rural living and see what
statements by members starting.
One of the greatest in Ontario.
Here we go.
The honourable member from Hamilton Mountain.
Speaker, Women's History Month gives us an opportunity to celebrate the achievements of Canadian women. And since this year's theme is about women at work, I want to highlight the integral role that women play in shaping our economy. I regularly meet with women entrepreneurs in my riding of Hamilton Mountain, like Bridget Soares of Apostrophe Accounting, Julie Bobiak of the Lucaya Cafe, Julie DiNardo of Gleam Smile Center, and the Montague sisters, who founded Black Owned, which helps uplift and promote other local businesses. And because of these conversations, I know how important this government's initiatives have been. Our national childcare strategy has helped more women enter the workforce than ever before. Our women's entrepreneurship strategy.
Make sure to smash the like button, folks, if you haven't yet already.
And a critical knowledge hub. And I believe measures like these are due to the fact we have gender parity in cabinet and Canada's first ever woman finance minister. So while Conservatives just keep hurling meaningless slogans on this side of the House, we're actually getting things done.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. It's legitimate to demonstrate for peace in the Middle East and to be distressed by the number of civilian casualties. But to demonstrate on October 7th, shouting, "We are Hamas, we are Hezbollah," or "Death to Canada," as we saw in Vancouver, is despicable, Mr. Speaker. And it echoes the excesses we're also hearing in Quebec. The Bloc unreservedly condemns this type of language. There's a difference, an ocean, in fact, between freedom of expression and claiming responsibility for recognized terrorist entities. There's an ocean between wanting security and freedom for the Palestinians and calling for the death of Canada. And this from a separatist, Mr. Speaker. Message to those who want a ceasefire for real. Ask your government why it's doing absolutely nothing instead of intimidating your Jewish neighbors in Quebec and Canada who have nothing to do with this. That's the difference between a pro-Palestinian demonstration for peace and an anti-Jewish demonstration for violence. The Honourable Member for Markham Unionville.
Speaker, I rise today in support of Bill C-71, a vital piece of legislation that addresses long-standing injustice faced by lost Canadians. Individuals who, due to the Harper conservative first-generation limit, have been unfairly excluded from Canadian citizenship. These individuals have lived, worked, and contributed to Canada. Bill C-71 will grant citizenship to those who were unfairly impacted by the previous Conservative government while establishing a substantial connection to Canada's test moving forward. I look forward to working with parliamentarians from all parties to get this work done. It is time to right this historical wrong and ensure that all who should rightfully be Canadians are recognized as such. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The honourable member from Red Deer, Mountain View.
One of the great local heroes of
this is going to be nuts. The return of Pierre.
Poet Stefan G. Stephenson. Born into poverty in northern Iceland in 1853, he immigrated to the U.S. in 1873 and then in 1889 to his Markerville home. Farmer by day and prolific poet by night, he composed verse, not in English but in his native Icelandic. He's been called the greatest poet of the Western world, publishing more than 2,000 pages of high-standard poetry. The local Stefan G. Stephenson Icelandic Society, formed 50 years ago, restored the original home site, which is now an Alberta Provincial Historical Site.
If you guys haven't yet already, make sure you smash that like button.
Presents the Stefan G. Stephenson Award in his honor as they celebrate this amazing poet and playwright. Recently, Donna Nelson, volunteer extraordinaire, was recognized for her exemplary contribution to the preservation and presentation of Alberta's heritage. Congratulations, Donna.
The honourable member from Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, as we celebrate Women's History Month this October, we're reminded of the incredible impact women have made and continue to make in our economy and communities. The theme, Women at Work, Economic Growth, Past, Present, and Future, beautifully highlights this ongoing journey. Today, we celebrate incredible local leaders in my riding, like Monique Dennison from the Richmond Hill Board of Trade and Sandra Ferry from the Chamber of Commerce, who are working every day to support businesses. Entrepreneurs like Tanya Lindsay and small business owners like Deborah Clark and Jacqueline Zhang. Real estate like Heidi Kreiner-Lee, and young women like Paris Johnson. And many other women who are so vital to the small and medium businesses in our communities. Over the last 40 years, women have powered 1/3 of Canada's economic growth, and there's still so much potential ahead. Our government not only celebrates women's history, but believes in their future. We will always support women and protect their rights, unlike the official opposition and its leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Saint-Laurent.
Speaker, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a time to increase awareness and raise funds for research into its cause, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and cure. Our government has funded a study into preventive care to help to accelerate various treatments for breast cancer. More and more women, particularly Indigenous women and Black women with breast cancer in 40 years are 40 years old and not 50. There's not enough Canadian research to justify making a change. Mr. Speaker, that in itself is unacceptable and indicates that we need more relevant and recent research done on women's health that must include Black, Asian, and Indigenous women. Unfortunately, in some provinces...
All right, chat, are you guys ready?
Screening is at 50.
Y'all ready for this?
That many people are diagnosed already at an advanced stage, which reduces their chance of survival.
Andrew with the 2.
Organizations and businesses.
Pushing life in prison for hate speech. Thank you. Joe with the 10. Jolie looks like she rolls in rotted fish. Joe, go study for your LSAT.
Thank you very much.
Jordan, thank you for the 2. Al, welcome to the membership. Thank you.
Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, DFO officials in writing told me 10 months
Saver with the 5. Thank you. I appreciate it.
authority at Sealy's Cove on critical wharf repairs. Yesterday,
Richard, I love you too. Thanks for the 2.
this federal wharf would be condemned. And I've discovered no discussions about repairs at Sealy's Cove happened with the Harbour Authority. In other words, I was misled by a public servant. This is after the Liberals cut small craft harbour funding in my New Brunswick riding, as well as in neighbouring Fundy Royal this year to support Liberal ridings. the fisheries minister even allocated $45 million to wharves in her Quebec riding this summer to save her neck in the next elections. No wonder Canadians believe this Liberal government is corrupt. It is inexcusable for DFO officials to lie to a member of Parliament. It is unforgivable for public servants to operate like partisan Liberals. What the hell is going on at DFO, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans?
Whoa! Look at the speaker. He's already on his toes.
Before the member continues, I'm
shut the hell up, Greg.
Brunswick Southwest to
Cod Snapper with 279, thank you. Mom with the 2, thank you. Rob from Canada with the 5, thank you.
Ask the honourable member.
Shatsy 279, thank you.
Draw that word, which is not considered parliamentary.
Greg, shut your mouth.
Unparliamentary language. The rest.
All right, good job. Good job. The rest stands.
And if I could encourage all members.
And Keith with the 199, thank you.
This is the second time.
Saver with the $2, Mr. Sunshine for Prime Minister.
And I would
hell no.
Members, please, to avoid using language which is clearly not parliamentary.
I'm wearing shorts, and when I walk outside, I wear flip-flops. Hell no. I ain't wearing a suit.
The Honourable Member for Vimy.
Tourism brings people together and fosters a sense of national
Let's go, folks.
This week, the Tourism Industry Association of
Is Chad awake today? This is gonna be nuts. We've done. I think the most we've ever done.
Highlight the importance of the visitor
is
I want to thank them for their work and
25,000 chat messages during the entirety of his stream.
Government support.
I feel like today we might get close.
With programs like the Tourism Growth Program available in all regional development agencies. The Conservatives are jeopardizing tourism business support programs with their austerity policies.
We know that investing in tourism leads to economic growth, job creation, environmental protection, and supports the flourishing of local culture, including Indigenous heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Saskatoon University.
More proof the NDP Liberals are not worth the cost, crime, or the corruption. The Attorney General found that Liberal appointees, the Green Slush Fund,
hit the like,
nearly $400 million taxpayers' dollars to their own companies, with over 186 conflict of interest alone, at a time when Canadians can't afford to eat, heat,
I appreciate that.
Themselves.
Seattle.
The Speaker has ruled that the NDP Liberal Costly Coalition violated the House orders to turn over evidence to the police for a criminal investigation into the latest scandal. Obstruction of justice? Anybody?
Let's get some W's in the chat for Pierre. Let's see how awake the chat is.
Liberals have chosen to
W's in the chat for Pierre.
Decide all work that we're doing to address the doubling of house
and then the Conservatives.
Food inflation.
Well, Pierre's back, baby. Pierre's
on
back.
The streets. Will the NDP Liberals end the cover-up and give evidence to the police so we can finally get accountability for corruption and Parliament can get back to work?
Yeah.
Member for Chicoutimi-Lafiore. Mr. Speaker, I'm very concerned for our forestry workers in the regions who are deeply attached to their profession. The Liberals, with the support of the Bloc, are not only ignoring their concerns, but threatening them with a decree that will kill at least 1,400 jobs. The Minister of the Environment's decision will seriously jeopardize the survival of this region without even having to take in the trouble to meet them. What we know is that the Bloc is no longer a party of the regions. It will continually convoys the outskirts of Montreal. The proof is the nomination of their new candidate, Patrick Bonin, who has
Where's the W's?
in favor of the decree and is asking the federal government to intervene. Wow, it's really the Bloc Liberal coalition. The Bloc
that's a lot.
coalition has no understanding what's happening.
You guys are awake. I like it.
Ignoring these realities will not only be responsible, but also reveal a glaring gap between Montreal's concerns and those of the regions. It's time to take action to protect jobs and the future of our regions. Let's put an end to this hypocrisy and give way to common sense. The Honourable Member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Mr. Speaker, as we approach International Spelling Day, I rise to contribute to the W's don't stop. To have helped build this incredible country. Hundreds of thousands Canadians of Spanish descent have made Canada stronger, generously and proudly adding their language, history, and culture.
What have I done?
To the great tapestry that we call our country.
Today, for the first time, in the presence of the Spanish ambassador to Canada, His Excellency Alfredo Martinez Serrano, his wife Rosa Martinez Serrano, State Secretary Olmedo, members of this House, as well as prominent
crying of laughter, folks.
Community. The ceremony serves
what have I done
between Canada and Spain, and honor those grandparents and great-grandparents who came to our shores following a long journey across the Atlantic.
Oh my God!
The ties between Canada and Spain only continue to grow, Mr. Speaker, and may Spain and Canada see peace and prosperity in our time. Gracias, merci, thank you.
Whoa!
The honourable member from...
What was that? You guys see that friggin' salute?
War rages on in Sudan. Thousands of children are facing imminent death from malnutrition.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, women and girls.
The super chat shows up for a second and then it's gone.
Of war. Today,
oh my
one person has been brought to safety, and the ministers not expecting.
Thanks, Quentin, for the tube.
This year, lives are lost as they wait for the.
John Peters with the 50. Holy smokes, man!
Once again,
good thing is pinned at the top. Love your streams. Keep them coming. Thank you, John. I appreciate you.
Like the IOM to help with biometrics, remove the 3,250 arbitrary application cap, and expand the program to include vulnerable children and those who are outside of Sudan prior to April 15, 2023, and can't get back home due to the war. Over 286,000 Ukrainians had arrived in Canada.
Dude, you guys are hitting almost 1,000 W's a minute.
Here.
This doesn't make any sense.
For Drummond.
I'm crying, man. I'm crying. It hasn't even started yet.
That the great history has left behind, which find themselves erased in the limbo of oblivion. And yet history cannot be adequately explained without these all too frequently forgotten pivotal moments. Fortunately,
Canadian Commando with the 2 to say W.
Who shed an unusual, unique light in our society, stepping outside the official lines to help us rediscover ourselves. These unmasking men and women of the past of the
channel member Matthew with the 2 saying W for Pierre.
Indebted.
C1D with the 2 saying W.
Michel Brault, Pierre Filardeau.
What have I done?
Prosper to name a few. Felix Rose, who is in Ottawa today, belongs to this.
For those tuning in that don't know why there's W's flooding the chat, W stands for win. So when Pierre the Conservatives say something awesome, we show them the support by putting W's in the chat. But I did the unfortunate mistake of turning that tap on, and I broke the hinge, and now it's just flooding.
Rating films in large numbers.
Oh my God! You guys ready?
Honorable colleagues, chers collègues.
Colleagues.
Oh, it's getting crazy in there.
The honourable member from Durham.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years, the NDP...
Not so new guy.
Canada unsafe. Violent crime is up 50%. And under this Prime Minister, hate crimes are up 251%.
Canadian Rig with the 5 saying winning.
The NDP Liberals are allowing a terrorist organization...
Aussie Charming with the $7.99 Australian currency. I don't even know what that is, but thank you.
Sammy Doon.
Here you go.
Terrorist organization...
Wish I could have given you more. Dude, just putting W's in the chat's more than enough.
We have already listed Sammy Doon as a terrorist organization.
Poor man's Poe with the 10 W.
Reported the leadership of Sammy Doon. What exactly are the NDP Liberals waiting for?
Alfred Canuck with the 20.
Act and make sure that they do not operate within our borders. We will protect Canadians of
Nancy,
all faiths,
Pierre on point, W. Thank you guys.
Home, safe streets, and ensure that Canadians can live in peace within our communities.
Oh, God. That was a good speech. There's Pierre! There's Pierre! Here we go!
The honourable member.
Whoa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ooh, almost there.
As I was saying, in Canada and around the world, we have seen the emergence of radical far
far-right movements. These movements have had a profound impact on the type of governments that have been elected.
Like the ones calling for the death of Canada?
Around the world, including here in Canada. They've organized disinformation campaigns designed to divide people and undermine confidence in reliable sources of information. They've impacted how some people treat others. They've impacted how some politicians treat others, including here in Canada, and they've led to some politicians acting against the best interests.
The chat reminds me of like Wolf of Wall Street, you know?
Policies,
but like politics.
Sound social policies.
It's a zoo.
Like dental care, child care, or better long-term care. By undermining fundamental women's rights, like a woman's right
Here we go,
to choose,
folks.
and by standing against measures to stand up to aggressors like Russia who pose a threat to us all. I urge us all
Object class with the 199 US W's from the Old Dominion state.
essential to Canada's security, to our
Nikki Bobby with the new membership. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Overwhelming support. Here we go. Here we go. Here's Pierre. Here's Pierre.
Questions.
Oral questions. Questions on all believers of the opposition to the next Fergus and Poilievre.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives would have liked to work hard in Parliament today to do something about real estate inflation that has doubled costs over 9 years of this Liberal government, or food inflation, which is 36% higher than in the United States. But unfortunately, instead, Parliament is paralyzed due to this Prime Minister. He paralyzed this House by blocking the documents that we ordered to be sent to the RCMP about a $400 million scandal. What exactly is this Prime Minister hiding?
Slush fund?
House Leader.
To start.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What the Leader of the Opposition said is completely false. Let me read what the RCMP said about this motion. They said there is a significant risk that this motion may be seen as a way of sidestepping normal inquiry processes and protecting the Charter. We are ready to send this to committee and return to the important business of this House. Thank you. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, this is a $400 million scandal, 8 times more than the sponsorship scandal in financial terms. The AG has found that there were 186 conflicts of interest. The leader of the Green Slush Fund has already been found guilty of violating the law. When someone steals from you, do you call the cops or do you simply send the matter to a committee? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, it's very clear that Canadians have had enough of the little games played by the Conservative Party, and they're tired of these Conservative slogans. They've also had enough of the Conservative filibustering.
That chihuahua!
Out of the House, as we've said several times. We will always be here to protect people's rights and freedoms in Canada. We will always stand up for democracy, and we will fight for Canada. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Conservatives would have liked to be working today to counter the doubling of housing costs this Prime Minister has caused, or the record food price inflation, which has been 36% higher in Canada than in the US. But unfortunately, the Prime Minister has paralyzed Parliament by refusing your ruling directing his government to turn over evidence in the $400 million Green Slush Fund scandal that the Auditor General says involves 186 conflicts of interest. Wow. With the chair of the fund found guilty, what has he got to hide?
$400 million Green Slush Fund for starters.
In the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is not being truthful with Canadians. It is the RCMP Commissioner himself who said the RCMP's ability to receive and use information obtained through this production order and under the compulsory powers afforded by the Auditor General Act in the course of a criminal investigation could give rise to concerns under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It is therefore highly unlikely that any information obtained by the RCMP under the motion where privacy interests exist could be used to support a criminal prosecution or further a criminal investigation. Mr. Speaker, let's get this.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This is a $400 million scandal
Whoa.
involving Liberal appointees giving millions of dollars to their own companies, and the minister's story is now changing.
Yep.
Last week, she claimed that the government had given documents to the RCMP. This week, they claim that if they gave documents to the RCMP, it would cause the Charter of Rights to come crashing down. It sounds like there's a new story every week to justify paralyzing Parliament to cover up the truth. What is in these documents about this $400 million scandal that the Prime Minister is so afraid of?
The honourable leader of the...
There you go. Put some W's for that.
This is a typical witch hunt from the leader of the opposition to go after people who have nothing to do with this. These are files such as personnel files that contain private information of individuals who have nothing to do with what is going on. Mr. Speaker, it is the RCMP and the Auditor General themselves who raised concerns with this motion, and it is the government's view that we should send this to committee so that we can get on with the important work of this House and protect the rights of Canadians.
The honourable leader of the opposition.
A witch hunt. The Ethics Commissioner appointed by this government has found the chair of the fund in violation of the law. The Auditor General, also appointed by this government, says there were 186 conflicts of interest involving Liberal appointees giving millions of dollars to their own companies. $400 million. Potential criminality, according to the main whistleblower in the scandal. Any other employer would voluntarily turn over all the evidence to the police if it had been ripped off by its own staff. What is the Prime Minister hiding?
The honourable leader of the government in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, if and when the police request that information, it will obviously be handed over because that is proper judicial process.
Oh my goodness.
Parliament that is...
They're just freaking covering their tracks.
Canadians should be concerned, Mr. Speaker, because when he is going after the rights of other Canadians, it's only a matter of time before his political vendettas come after the rights of all Canadians.
For those wondering why Trudeau's not there, he's meeting with the head of Sudanese.
The Bloc Québécois tabled Bill C-282 to exempt supply management from any future trade negotiations.
He's out of the country meeting with the head of Sudanese.
In this House have at different times supported that bill, which is now in the Senate. Now I'd
Sudanese nuts.
The government has executive power based on its democratic election. Does the government still agree that supply management should be exempted from all further trade negotiations in future? The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Mr. Speaker, and being a dairy farmer for a large portion of my life, I fully understand and appreciate the value of the supply management program, Mr. Speaker.
This guy's on his last breath.
Support Bill C-282.
How is he still there?
The place to move on this legislation as quickly as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member. Let me further clarify, Mr. Speaker. There are 2 senators, neither of them elected. They're not saying that they're not sure. They're saying very clearly that supply management should be up for grabs in future trade negotiations. It should not be excluded from them. They are saying the opposite of what the government is saying. By not imposing its will on 2 non-elected senators, is this government turning its backs on agricultural producers in Quebec and Canada? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, my colleagues should not come to me to say that our government is turning its backs on dairy producers. We have always been there for dairy producers from the very beginning, and we will continue to stand up for them. Mr. Speaker, we decided to...
Yeah, we don't know where Jagmeet is either. It's crazy.
And once again, I think the Bloc Québécois should be able to understand this concept.
The honourable member from Burnaby South.
You won't believe.
Oh, there he is.
Corporate landlords are using AI technology to rip off renters. They're jacking up rent. Now, the United States is taking legal action against this, but the Liberals are letting it happen here in Canada. Now, I know the Conservatives don't care because their chief advisor is also a chief lobbyist for corporate landlords. But what's the Liberals' excuse?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for his question and his concern for the rising cost of rent, which I completely agree is a very serious issue. Where we differ is we're not satisfied with just launching complaints on the floor of the House of Commons. We want to advance policies that actually put solutions on the table that make a meaningful difference for families. That's why we're putting measures in place to help build more homes, like cutting taxes on apartment construction. Is why we're increasing investments to build more affordable housing.
Didn't this guy lose 1 million people?
Bill of Rights on the table to help protect renters in precarious situations. I only wish the NDP would care enough to join us in trying to do something about the problem.
The Honourable Member of Burnaby South.
Excuses are way cheaper than rent.
He's been waiting for weeks to say that one.
Nation has had undrinkable water since 2018. And this Liberal government is fighting them in court, arguing that they do not have a legal responsibility to clean the water. They're also arguing that when a minister says...
I rarely agree with anything Jagmeet says, but this is true.
...to believe that they're actually going to do. Will the Liberals call off the lawyers and clean up the water?
I cannot believe that I actually agree with something Jagmeet is saying.
Services.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we've been doing over the last 9 years, cleaning up the mess that the Conservatives left behind with over $8 million
that's not true.
in clean water.
Liberal government lawyers
Across the country, Mr.
ruled
Speaker,
that it's not the government's responsibility to clean, to make sure that people in Canada have clean drinking water.
We'll be testifying tomorrow about the legislation. There are hundreds of chiefs that have called on the NDP and the Conservatives to get this legislation moving through the House, so we never go back to that time again.
Fuck! Yes, it's a rare W for Jagmeet.
The Honourable Member from New Westminster.
But don't put it in chat. Don't you dare.
So I'm going to ask him to please not take the mic unless recognized. The Honourable Member from Haldimand, Norfolk.
After 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and now time is up. Mr. Speaker, you ruled that the government has violated the House order to turn over evidence to the RCMP related to the $400 million Green Slush Fund scandal. Yet, the Liberal government continues to obstruct justice by refusing to turn over these documents. When will they end this cover-up and let the House focus on solving the housing, food, and inflation crisis that they created?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
She's finally getting some camera time, eh?
What the member opposite is saying is absolutely false. It is the Conservatives who are filibustering their own motion in this House because it is the RCMP and the Auditor General who have both raised their extreme discomfort with the motion that the Conservatives have put forward. If the Conservatives want to get back to work, we are ready to send this to committee to make sure that we can talk about the issues that matter to Canadians. That's what Liberals are here to do. We don't understand why Conservatives don't want to do that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Haldimand, Norfolk.
The truth is, it is the Liberal government that is obstructing justice and holding Parliament in contempt by refusing to hand over documents to the RCMP. Now we know why. The Auditor General has found that the Liberal-appointed board members gave nearly $400 million to their own companies. This is happening at a time when Canadians can barely afford food to eat and poverty diseases like scurvy have resurfaced in this country. Will the NDP Liberals take accountability and just hand over those documents to the Canadians?
There you go.
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker,
Oh, they're bouncing around. Who answers?
Conservatives talk about obstructing justice. Let's just talk about how justice works in this country. When law enforcement wants to prosecute an individual, they...
Colleagues. I'm going to invite the Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General to start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, 3 times in this question period so far, I've heard Conservatives talk about obstructing justice. Let's talk about how justice actually operates in a democracy. Law enforcement has a reasonable suspicion about an individual or an entity. They then go and seek a search warrant from a court so that they can invade that person's privacy and obtain the documents. Instead of pursuing the normal court processes, we have Conservatives saying we're going to subvert all of that for the purposes of partisan gain. This is what we do in a democracy. We stand up for judicial processes and we stand up for the Charter.
No, they keep blocking every time it goes to committee. They have no other choice.
I'm not able to hear all comments, but I did hear the comments from the member from Glengarry Prescott Russell asking not to take the microphone until he's recognized by the Speaker. The Honourable Member from Dufferin Caledon.
Taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up, and corruption is off the charts. A fish rots from the head down. So is it any wonder that Liberal cronies appointed to the Green Slush Fund by a Prime Minister twice convicted of ethics violations engaged in corruption? And this is not small corruption, Mr. Speaker. It's $400 million. And, Mr. Speaker, you ordered the production of these documents.
Yeah.
Why won't these Liberals stop the cover-up and produce them?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, it's...
Oh, the chihuahua with the fake enthusiasm.
Slogans are up, Mr. Speaker. Slogans are up again. Canadians are sick and tired of them, Mr. Speaker, repeating the same false things, Mr. Speaker, and repeating the same slogan. What these Conservatives are about, Mr. Speaker, is going after the personal file of employees and former employees. They're targeting STDC today. Who are they going to target tomorrow? That's what on this side that I have. We stand for democracy. We'll stand for rights. We'll stand up for Canada.
Yeah, right. You've had 9 years. All-time low in the polls.
The Honourable Member from Dufferin.
Scandal after scandal.
It's simple who we're targeting, Mr. Speaker. We're targeting corruption that they enabled, corruption that they're hiding, and corruption that they refuse to produce the documents for. Mr. Speaker, these are documents that you ordered the production of. So Canadians should ask themselves, why aren't they producing them? They're not producing them because they are so damaging. They are so bad. They will destroy this government, and therefore they've used up 7 days of House of Commons time to hide their corruption. Stop the corruption. Produce the documents.
Right. There you go. Stop messing around.
Colleagues, the Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Speaker, again, the Conservatives are saying things that are false. The only party that has been putting up speakers for the past week are the Conservatives. So they are the ones that are filibustering their own motion. But let's talk about why they might be filibustering that motion. Rob Walsh, the former law clerk, said, in my humble opinion, it is an abuse of its powers for the House to use its power to demand a...
Chers colleagues, it is so important for us to allow one speaker to speak at a time because we have a very large place here with many members. It's difficult for those who require the use of their earphones to be able to hear the interpretation. So the Honourable Government...
There he goes.
I'm going to ask her to...
At least he's not muting the mic.
I know that I've got some hand signals from members who were not able to hear that answer. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I notice the volume gets up when they don't want to hear the truth. So let's go on to that. The only members of Parliament who have been debating this motion are Conservative members of Parliament. They are filibustering their own motion. And let me tell you why, Mr. Speaker. It might have something to do with Rob Walsh, the former law clerk, who stated, it is an abuse of its powers for the House to use its power to demand and get documents from the government in order to transfer them to a third party that wouldn't otherwise receive them, or to compel the government to give documents to the third party. They want to get around the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They're going after Canadians. Who's next?
Here. L'honorable député de Charlebourg, Haute.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles.
Folks, this is nuts today.
Speaker, in La Presse this morning, we saw that Myriam Bandoui, 15 years old, was killed by a stray bullet. Thomas Trudel, 16, also died due to a shooting. A 14-year-old lost their life while trying to set a fire in Beauce. And a French tourist and a 7-year-old daughter were visiting Montreal and died in an arson attack. The Minister of Justice has blamed the government.
Reminder, guys, if you haven't yet already, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss
When will they finally trigger an election
streams
so
like
we can
this.
fix this? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, my colleague knows very well that we are working with the provinces in order to do something about exactly this type of violence. We are constantly speaking with police forces, with provincial public safety ministers, and we will continue to provide the necessary resources to our police forces. Something that the Conservatives did not do. They cut funding to the CPSA and RCMP. The Honourable Member. Well, this morning, Montreal's Chief of Police said in an interview that in order to do something about crime in Montreal, he needs the right laws and regulations in place. But for 9 years, the Liberal government has only been bringing in legislation that actually weakened our ability to address crime. Today, criminals are just running around in the streets unafraid of police forces or the justice system.
Dude, they're calling death to Canadians in front of cops.
Under the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker.
It's insane.
Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Pierre gets up, by the way, every single time to clap and applause
This side of the House,
anyone from the Conservative bench.
We have invested in our borders. We have invested in our police forces. And we have invested in increasing penalties for things like auto crime. We know that if there are issues that have to do with provincial jurisdiction, we need to ask questions to governments like the Legault government. We need to ask them about how the staffing levels are at their detention centers. We need to ask them about the details of their police services. It's this type of thing that we need to fix the problem. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Minister said to me that I should not in any way say that she's turning her back on producers. But I think this government is turning its back on producers. They don't seem to care about these 6,000 businesses in Quebec or 100,000 jobs. They don't seem to care at all. Time is up. And all they're actually doing is providing us with excellent arguments for Quebec independence.
Perfect. Call the vote in on confidence.
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, the Liberals stand completely behind the supply managed system. Our dairy, poultry, and egg producers have our full support. Farmers have two real options. Only two real options for the future. A Liberal government that believes in the current system and wants to protect it, or the other option, which is not at all unanimous on the topic of supply management. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, there are two other options. Electing a maximum number of Bloc Québécois MPs or sovereignty. That's the other two options. There are just so many failures on the part of this Liberal government. There are so
What do you guys think, chat?
It will be too late.
Get rid of them? Go away?
NDP won't be able to show its face with these Liberals. Who's really the boss here in Canada?
Should they separate?
The Prime Minister or two unelected senators? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
À l'ordre, s'il vous plaît. L'honorable ministre des Services publics et de la...
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my colleague spoke about incompetence. If there's someone who's really unable to do anything for farmers and producers, it's the leader of the Bloc Québécois, because he's chosen to constantly go on about sovereignty and independence instead of actually addressing our urgent issues. This bill on supply management, the only reason it exists is that there was a Liberal government in power at the time, and that Liberal government is still in power. If it were a Conservative or a Bloc government, we wouldn't have that legislation.
The honourable member from Mission Matsqui, Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. The Auditor General reported 186 conflicts of interest and over $400 million in misspent funds that went to Liberal insiders. The Minister of Environment's former employer, Cycle Capital, received $250 million from the Green Slush Fund, all while over half of Canadian small businesses are losing money year over year. Why is it okay for Liberals to enrich their friends while small businesses are struggling to stay afloat?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
You know, Mr. Speaker, what's not okay is for the Conservative to repeat the same thing time and time again when they know it's false, Mr. Speaker. Exactly. Because the reality, and let's talk about facts, Mr. Speaker. The entity they're talking about was created in 2001. It was managed by the Conservative for 9 years, Mr. Speaker. The CEO of that organization is gone.
The Liberals have been in power for 20 out of the last 30 years, and they still have the audacity to try and blame Conservatives.
Canadians, those who work at this organization, Mr. Speaker, we're going to stand for democracy, we're going to stand for rights, and we're going to stand for the work that needs to be done by this House, Mr. Speaker.
You can't stand for nothing if you're always on your knees, Chihuahua.
From Fraser, Mission. The honourable member from Mission Matsqui, Fraser Canyon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
They needed the mic.
9,037 businesses from May to June 2024 and 6,331 declared insolvency year over year. The closures we're witnessing right now haven't been this large since the pandemic when the entire country was shut down. So when Canadian entrepreneurs and workers are struggling, business is still booming for Liberal insiders.
Yep.
Why is the Prime Minister hiding behind the Green Slush Fund documents, and when will he release them to Parliament?
The Honourable Minister.
To continue to support small and medium-sized businesses, we are empowering entrepreneurs. We're increasing the lifetime capital gains exemption. We're investing in Canadian startups. We're boosting government procurement for small and medium-sized businesses and supporting Indigenous entrepreneurs as well. And Mr. Speaker, it gives me the opportunity to also announce here that we've negotiated agreements with both MasterCard and Visa to lower those interchange fees by up to 27%, which takes place as of October 19th of this month. We'll continue to support small businesses, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
The honourable member from Perth Wellington.
After 9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. Mr. Speaker, you yourself ruled that this government violated an order of this House to turn over evidence to the police for a criminal investigation into the latest Liberal scandal. The government's refusal to accept your ruling has paralyzed Parliament, pushing aside our work to address the doubling of housing costs, food inflation, crime, and chaos. Will the minister end the cover-up, give the proof to the RCMP so we can get Parliament working again for all Canadians?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, what the members opposite are saying is not true. Your ruling was very clear. Because of the unprecedented nature of that motion, it should go to the Procedure and House Affairs Committee for study. The RCMP and the Auditor General raised their extreme discomfort with the Conservative motion. Canadians should be concerned because the Conservatives are going after whoever they hold a political grudge against, and this could be them next. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny, Lille, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, this is a $400 million scandal. That's the amount of taxpayer money that has ended up in the pockets of Liberal buddies. Meanwhile, Canadians are facing food insecurity, crime, and skyrocketing housing costs, and instead this Liberal corruption is blocking our parliamentary work. It is completely paralyzed due to this Liberal government's corruption and financial mismanagement. Will this government finally provide the documents so that we can get back to work? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague spoke about financial accountability. And here's what the RCMP had to say about responsibility. He said that the RCMP is an arm's length organization and that he completely supports the independence of police forces in a democratic society, which means that this House and government cannot direct police operations. Can anything be clearer than that? Do the Conservatives need a briefing with a leader of the RCMP? It should be clear enough, in my opinion.
The fact that it's even escalating to the RCMP is insane.
This week, the honourable chiefs from the Prince Albert Grand Council are in Ottawa fighting for their people. In their communities, overcrowding and poor quality housing is leading to mental, physical, and social crisis. Tuberculosis, a disease that has run rampant during residential school time, is on the rise again in Indigenous communities. Children are dying. Why has the government continued the decades-old Liberal and Conservative tradition of refusing to provide the needed funding to end this cycle?
The Honourable Minister for Indigenous Relations Services.
Speaker, every step of the way over the past 9 years, this government has worked with First Nations leaders, Indigenous leaders across the country to restore rights and to restore self-determination.
Bro, they freaking deemed it not their responsibility to provide clean drinking water to Indigenous communities.
On mental health, which
and I showed a video yesterday on MSB
solutions for. We're going to
of brown water
partners exactly
today,
like the
well, yesterday,
today.
in Indigenous communities because of these freaking wacko liberals.
From the Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' misguided one-size-fits-none return-to-office mandate is hurting workers and Canadians trying to access vital public services. This rushed mandate was done without due consultation, unfairly impacting dedicated workers. Is this the Liberals' method of natural attrition or an underhanded attack on skilled public servants? We know Conservatives sure don't have workers' backs, but will the Liberals repeal this unfair mandate?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board and Minister for Transport.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague is exactly right. Conservatives do not have workers back, unlike this side of the House.
Yes.
Our top priority is to deliver quality programs and services to Canadians. We are committed to ensuring that our public servants are supported through this change to the directive on hybrid work. It's our expectation that departments work with their union management committees during the implementation phases that are before us. The clerk and the department heads will continue to monitor and work with the unions and the public service. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, recently I stood alongside the Premier of Manitoba, federal colleagues and healthcare workers as we made a major investment of $630 million in the province's healthcare system. After Conservatives in Manitoba decimated healthcare over a decade of cuts and closures, this funding was desperately needed. The redevelopment of Portage Place is a generational project aimed at revitalizing the downtown core, in large part by establishing a new state-of-the-art healthcare facility. It simply does not happen without federal support. Can the Minister for Prairies outline how our government is supporting this significant redevelopment and what it means for the future of Winnipeg? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you for that question. Mr. Speaker, big things are happening in Winnipeg's downtown. Thanks to collaboration between the three levels of government, the private sector, and Southern chiefs, we're revitalizing the core of our city to make it more livable for everyone. Despite calls by Conservative politicians to cut funding to Prairie Scan, we are making a significant federal investment in the redevelopment of Portage Place to build more homes that people can afford, to build a new healthcare center in the center of downtown and offer other public spaces. Mr. Speaker, we are walking a new path together, and Winnipeggers are proud.
The Honourable Member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up,
crime is up,
time is up. The corruption of this Liberal government knows no bounds. The Liberal Minister of Employment has continuously misled Parliament about his alter ego, the other Randy. Text from his business partner reference a Randy, and we now know there was no other Randy involved in the fraudulent medical supply company while he was a sitting member of Cabinet. When will the minister come clean with Canadians, end this charade, and resign?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Ethics Commissioner has looked into this matter 3 times and each time has confirmed he has no concerns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 long years of this Liberal NDP government, taxes are up, costs are up, corruption is up, and apparently the amount of Randys is up. The Minister of Employment has been accused of violating the law by engaging in improper business dealings with his corrupt, scandal-plagued partner. The minister claimed he wasn't involved in this business, but was later forced to admit that
no one's found the other Randy yet.
He admit he is the other Randy and that he violated the law. When will the minister come clean?
Put on a shirt, Randy.
We all know.
Cheeseburger Randy.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
Mr. Speaker, as I just said, the Ethics Commissioner has looked into this matter 3 times and each time has confirmed he has no concerns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Calgary Shepherd.
9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is now up for them. The Liberal
God damn, they need new friggin' talking points.
With his business partner during an alleged $500,000 fraud linked to the other Randy. But phone records and text messages now show the complete opposite. It seems the minister made a habit of bending the rules and using his influence to benefit his business partner. The same business partner that you, Speaker, have now found is in contempt of Parliament. So it's really simple. Will the minister admit that the charade is up and then admit that he broke the law and confirm that he is in fact the other Randy?
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In case my honourable colleague didn't hear my previous answer, as I stated, the Ethics Commissioner has looked into this matter 3 times and each time has confirmed he has no concerns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Wellington, Halton Hills.
The government's investigating the government.
PFLP is a listed terrorist entity. Fact 2, Khaled Barakat was a member of PFLP when he founded Sammy Doon in 2012, and his wife Charlotte Cates incorporated Sammy Doon under Canadian law in 2021. Fact 3, under Section 8305 of the Criminal Code, any entity that has knowingly acted on behalf of, at the direction of, or in association with a listed entity can be listed. The facts are clear. The government's position is not. Why hasn't the government listed Sammy Doon as a terrorist entity under the criminal code?
The Honourable Minister for Public Security.
Speaker, the government's position has in fact been very clear. Decisions around listing terrorist entities are made based on the advice of security and intelligence officials. My colleague, the parliamentary secretary, made it clear yesterday. I have instructed the security and intelligence agencies that report to us to do on an expedited basis a review of these matters. And I've said, Mr. Speaker, we hope to come back to Canadians with information very soon.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. When we demand an increase in old age security payments for 65 to 74-year-olds, the Minister of Seniors accuses us of saying no to seniors. But he should know that the Bloc Québécois is on team yes. Yes to pensioners, yes to improving their living conditions, yes to no longer having 2 categories of seniors. It's the Minister who is on team no. His only achievement since taking office has been to say no to pension increases. That is his only achievement. Saying no. Why doesn't he join Team Yes to Seniors?
Yes to separating. I think a lot of people are actually really on board with the bloc separating.
To reassure my colleague and the entire Bloc Québécois that we know that they're saying yes to seniors.
And yes to an election, of course.
Speaker, they said no a lot too. They've said no to all increases in supports to Quebec and Canadian seniors. 2.4 million seniors are benefiting from the GIS increase. We increased it, but the Bloc Québécois voted against that. The Honourable Member for Shefford. The Bloc Québécois is not alone in saying yes to seniors. 79% of Canadians say yes to increasing old age security for 65 to 74-year-olds. The House of Commons says yes. Seniors say yes. Seniors groups are saying yes, including the FADOC, the AQDR, and the AREC. Imagine, even the AREC from Outaouais, the minister's own region, came out to support us on the Hill. The minister is standing alone. In fact, in his riding alone, he could help 12,000 people. Can he wake up? Today, Verdun. Tomorrow, Gatineau.
Call the vote on confidence.
The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. Well, I have often visited my colleague's beautiful region. I encourage her to visit Outaouais. The Outaouais is my region, and when she's in the Outaouais, she can explain to the 14,000 people in her riding of Shefford, because those 14,000 in her riding are today benefiting from the Canada Dental Care Plan, and she can explain to them, Mr. Speaker, why she voted against that. I encourage all members, including and especially the member for Lac-Saint-Jean, to not rise before having been recognized by the chair. Oh, I may be mistaken in who I named, and if that is the case, then I do apologize. But the members in that part of the room, please do not take the floor before recognized by the chair.
After 9 years, the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, grocery prices are up, and time is up. A year ago, the Liberals promised to lower food prices by Thanksgiving. All Canadians got were empty promises and empty stomachs. Now they're going to pay $80 for a turkey this Thanksgiving. Food inflation in Canada is at 37% higher than the United States. Food security is up 111% thanks to the NDP Liberal carbon tax. Will the NDP Liberal government axe the carbon tax so Canadians can afford a Thanksgiving dinner?
And this is why we love John Rustad, who's running for the Premier of BC, because he's going to cut the carbon tax in BC.
Shawinigan, I don't know where he's shopping for his turkey, Mr. Speaker. I'll invite him to my house in Shawinigan. He'll find out it's a bit cheaper. But, Mr. Speaker, the reality is what is this government has done, and it's said by all the economists in Canada, Mr. Speaker, what we've done, which is the most significant thing, is to reform competition in this country, Mr. Speaker, to have less concentration, more choice for consumer, which stabilize price, Mr. Speaker. And in addition, they should celebrate. We now have a grocery code of conduct in this country, Mr. Speaker, to bring more fairness and stabilize price in the country.
The honourable member from Foothills.
I don't think many Canadians find the minister making fun of their struggles much of a joke.
That's right.
Because the reality is, for many Canadians, buying that turkey for Thanksgiving is just a dream. The Liberal government has made the Canadian
really expensive.
a food bank nightmare. 1 million Canadians just in Ontario went to a food bank last year, up 25%. And now Canadians doctors are raising the alarm on scurvy in Canada because Canadians can't afford basic nutrition. Will the Liberal NDP government make the Canadian dream come true and call a carbon tax election?
The fact that people can't have turkey, which is like the staple on Thanksgiving, it just breaks my heart.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, I'm proud that in 2016 we introduced the Canada Child Benefit. Mr. Speaker, there's 4.3 million families and over 7 million children across this country who receive this benefit each and every month. That's $547 a month for parents with children ages 6 to 18, or $648 each month. I got to speak recently with a new mom named Madeline who shared how impactful this is for her family. The position the Conservatives have...
For Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier.
Shut her up.
Mr. Speaker, it's just unreal how out of touch this Liberal government is. Over the past 9 years of this Liberal government, the cost of living has skyrocketed. I urge the Liberals to climb down from their ivory tower and go to a grocery store. It's crazy how high prices are, how much they've gone up. And the Bloc Québécois is constantly voting to keep this Liberal government in place. I beg the Bloc Québécois to please not take Quebecers for fools. When is this Liberal government going to have some common sense and stop wasting the money of honest and hardworking Canadians? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives are very hypocritical. They talk about Canadians in need, but they don't support funding community food programs and not-for-profit organizations. They talk about people living on the street, but they oppose investments to build more housing. They have a hidden agenda, Mr. Speaker, and everything they say in this House is utter nonsense.
Oh, does that break parliamentary privilege?
The Honourable Member for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel. Mr. Speaker, Montreal's East End is brimming with opportunities. Last November, at the Sommet de l'Est, the Minister of Economic Development announced $30 million for businesses and organizations in the East End through the Initiative to Support Economic Development in Montreal's East End. Can the Minister tell us how our government is supporting the enormous potential of Montreal's East End to become a leading centre of economic and social development in Quebec? The Honourable Minister of Regional Development, of Tourism, pardon me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague. We are both members for areas in the East End of Montreal. Last week, I announced the launch of a call for proposals for social innovation projects in the East End of Montreal. This is the first time that a $1 million investment will lead to new social and innovation projects that will generate economic, social, and environmental benefits in the East End of Montreal. Mr. Speaker, I invite all businesses to submit their applications by November 29th. We are here to support the East End of Montreal to ensure that it's part of tomorrow's economy.
Michael. Then I have the honourable member from Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, the government has all sorts of excuses why it won't provide documents to this House or to the RCMP about the $400 million spending scandal. They falsely claim it would violate privacy and that it would negatively impact the RCMP's investigation and that it would violate charter rights. The Constitution is clear. Parliament is supreme. Parliament has the lawful authority to order the production of documents. So why is this government consistently trampling on the constitutional authority of this House?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, that was some incredible doublespeak from my colleague across the way. It's actually the RCMP who has said this, and I quote, "The RCMP's ability to receive and use information obtained through this production order and under the compulsory powers afforded by the Auditor General Act in the course of a criminal investigation could give rise to concerns under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. There is significant risk that the motion could be interpreted as a circumvention
She has to read her notes, eh?
processes and charter protections. For a party that claims to respect the police, they certainly don't respect police independence."
Exactement.
The Honourable Member from Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms also includes Sections 3, Sections 4, and Sections 5, which is about the democratic rights of Canadians. And Canadians have the right to be democratically elected on the floor of this House, and the majority of this House has demanded the production of these documents related to the $400 million spending scandal. We did the same thing with lab documents. Why does this government consistently ignore the democratic wishes of the people's elected representatives and deny this House?
There we go. We got some W's in the chat for that one. Look at that, folks.
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney
Speaker, I
General.
have a lot of respect for that member opposite because he usually stands up for institutions, including this place. What he's not standing up for right now is for the independence of law enforcement in this country. The independence of law enforcement is pivotal. And what my colleague was emphasizing is that usually my friends opposite are constantly listening to the police. This is what the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP said on the news yesterday. It's a very dangerous situation. The rule of law is predicated upon a separation between what Parliament is doing and what law enforcement agencies are doing. In this case, the RCMP. We're listening to those RCMP commissioners and former commissioners. I wish the member opposite would do the same.
The Liberals are just greasy, man.
Calgary Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, for years they've known Sami Doon as a known terror affiliate. On October 7th, they chanted, "We are Hezbollah, we are Hamas, death to Canada, death to America, death to Israel." They incited hate, they incited terror, they burned our flag. Why does our foreign minister fail to act when Canada is threatened? Well, she told Tom Mulcair it's about the demographics of her voters. Mr. Speaker, why does this minister put partisan politics over Canadian national security interests?
There you go. They don't want to split their votes.
Order. The Honourable Minister for Public Security.
Mr. Speaker, our government is deeply concerned about the national security interests of Canadians. That's why we support the law enforcement agencies and the security agencies to do this important work. That's why we rely on their advice to decide when the government, under the Criminal Code of Canada, should list a terrorist entity. Mr. Speaker, good news. These security agencies are constantly reviewing a whole series of organizations to determine if the threshold has been met. I recently talked to them as late as this morning, and I'm very confident that we'll have some important news very quickly.
The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, Canadians work hard all year round to be able to afford to go on holiday and visit their families. They want quality service from airlines. Last week, the Supreme Court ruled in
We're not supposed to travel, though.
Approach to protect Canadian air passengers.
We're going to burn down the planet.
Minister of Transport share this excellent news with us. Thank you.
L'honorable ministre, l'honorable présidente.
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board and Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, we were the first government in Canadian history to pass legislation protecting air passengers. And that was the right thing to do, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Canadians. Canadians have rights. Canadians deserve protection. Canadians can count on our Liberal government. Unlike the Conservatives, we will always stand up for travellers and their rights. Thank you very much.
Now all of a sudden, the Liberals are all about people's rights.
Sudan now has the world's worst displacement of children anywhere. 17 months into this devastating humanitarian crisis, not one single Sudanese Canadian loved one has gotten to safety in Canada. A family member in Vancouver was desperate to bring his sister and her 2 daughters to safety. With months of inaction, the sister has now perished. The 2 children are alone. Will the minister expedite processing and expand eligibility of his restrictive program to include vulnerable children in Sudan?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member knows well that this was a plan that was devised with community members, with community organizations, and we worked hand in hand with them to put out this program to get 8,000 Sudanese people fleeing war. We plan to make sure that these people are here, hopefully by the end of the year, more next year. But I will constantly be working with those community members that I will be meeting with as early as tomorrow to evolve the program if need be. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo.
The Honourable
That guy's so screwed, man.
Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, I've been asking questions in this House for over a year now, and yet there is a ridiculous tax issue that has not been addressed. Here's an example of the absurdity. When someone goes to Tim Hortons and buys 6 donuts, they are exempt from paying taxes. But if they decide to buy 6 sugar-free, healthy bars, they do have to pay taxes. This means that people are paying more for healthy products, which is bad for our local entrepreneurs who face unfair competition from multinationals. Can the Prime Minister tell us whether he intends to ask his Minister of Finance to rectify this ridiculous situation? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've discussed the matter many times with my colleague. I understand that he cares deeply about this issue. This would involve some major changes to be made by the Department of Finance and the Department of Health, and we can look into the matter further. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Comme il est 15h19.
It being 3:19 p.m.,
Oh, point of order. The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, earlier, during question period, the member for Outremont used non-parliamentary language. I would like to invite her to take back what she said and to apologize.
The Conservatives, man. Just trolling the Liberals.
The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, I think if you look back at the Hansard, you will see that that language has already been used, and I will be happy to give a further answer once you have been able to look into this.
From Regina Capella is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, the House Leader said that Liberals weren't participating in the current debate on Liberal corruption. I just wanted to know if I could table the speeches from the member from Winnipeg
So
Yeah, you need unanimous consent.
Not have unanimous consent to be able to table that document. Pour revenir.
As I was saying,
c'est tout fini.
Back to the point of order raised by the member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. I will indeed look back and look into this, but based on my own memory, I think the word used was a word that, although it is regrettable, is one that is used frequently in this House, but I will come back to this if necessary.
Okay.
Comme il est.
It being 3:21 p.m., the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion to concur in the 31st report of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Call in the members.
Alrighty. Nice. Well, I mean, that had a good start. We hit the ground running. It did taper down once Pierre left. The momentum kind of fizzled out. But that's politics. That's politics, baby. Nikki Bobby with the membership and Saver with the new membership program. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Welcome. Poor Man's Poet at 20 US. Let's go, Pierre. Swaggers in like Ric Flair, baby. Woo! It's definitely a lot more entertaining when Pierre is there actually talking. I think a lot of us just want him to talk, right? Do most of the talking, which is frankly what today was supposed to be. But I guess he, partway through, once he finished his first back and forths, he got up and left. Alfred Canuck with the 5. That's Rich coming from Gould the Witch. Mandy with the 2. Smash the like button, everyone. Thank you, Mandy. Susie Q with the membership. Welcome, Susie. Andrew with the 2. Wanting to reinstate the death penalty. Watch how fast Canada changes. Surprisingly, I've heard more and more about that recently.
Mr. Nader, second.
Jordan English with the 5.
Moved that the 31st report of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts presented on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023, be concurred in. The 10-minute period for members voting electronically.
Jordan with the 5. Think how much we would save on equalization payments alone if they left. If I remember correctly, they are the biggest slice of the pie.
All those in favor of the
That's a good
motion will
point.
please rise.
Rob from Canada with the 2. Canada can't afford these people $6,000 a month. Isn't that what Freeland gets for like spas or something like that?
Mr. Poilievre. Mr. Upal. Ms. Lewis Haldeman Norfolk. Mrs. Gray.
Chronic homelessness is what they're voting on right now.
Mr. Kelly. Mr. Baldinelli. Mr. Cooper. Mr. Kimmich. Mr. Jennings.
The Conservatives didn't even know it was their turn to vote. They almost voted nay.
Mr. Abouté.
Wake up! Come on, genius! Wake up! Holy shit, that's funny.
Mr. Macaulay Edmonton West. Mr. Lloyd. Mr. Brassard.
They had to tell him, hey man, wake up.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Godin. Mr. Morantz. Mrs. Roberts.
It'll probably be unanimous.
Ms. Gladue. Mrs. Cramp-Nyman. Madame Vien. Mrs. Gallant. Mr. Muse. Mr. Redicott.
Chronic, what the hell is chronic homelessness?
Mr. Waugh.
I don't even know.
Mr. Calkins.
I don't even know, folks, but it's really not, it's not that crazy. We're gonna segue out of this here. We're gonna end it. It's okay. I don't think that the vote really has a whole lot going on. It's likely to be unanimous, folks. We're gonna end the stream here. It was a good stream. There was some good zingers, definitely. It definitely was very top heavy. A lot of the bulk of the entertainment started at the beginning when question period started with Pierre, and then it fizzled out so fast. There was some good zingers throughout the episode, but nonetheless, it lost a lot of momentum. I don't know where Pierre went to go do his job somewhere. Who knows? Went to drop a Trudeau. But nonetheless, that's where we're going to end this stream. Look forward to seeing you guys back tomorrow, same time. Don't forget to drop a like on the stream if you haven't yet already. And check to see if you're subscribed. We are getting close to 118,000 subscribers. We're pretty close. So if a few hundred of you who are watching are not subscribed, might as well just subscribe. It's free to do. It's honestly one of the best ways to just stick it to the government. More and more people become aware of what's going on. They get to see these debates. They get to see the incompetence. And it's also a phenomenal community. Free to do, though. Free to do. It's the best way to support the channel. And it happens to be free. So let's see how many chat messages we got. 18.3 thousand. 18.3 thousand. That's good. It's not a record, but it's good. We'll beat the record another day. I think it was like 26,000, like even last week or a couple weeks ago. But nonetheless, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate all the support. This was good. The community here is just phenomenal, man. You guys are awesome. Oh, we got another super chat to kind of wrap things up. Matthew Galligan with a 20. All right. As per your poll, they've been threatening that for decades. If they want to separate, fine, just go. The childish threats on what on that is like listening to your little sister complain that she can't join an only boys club. I mean, yeah, the block is definitely full of those kind of empty threats. But again, if they don't get what they want, they have said that they're going to call a vote in on confidence, and so. Right? Who knows how that's gonna turn out? But I mean, something's gonna happen. Something has to happen. There's so much tension. There's so much craziness in the air. We can all feel it, and that's why we gotta watch this stuff every day. Because when it happens, you're gonna want to know immediately. So thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace and love to all you. Thank you for all of the super chats and the new channel members. And just don't feel like you got to do that. It's awesome that people do that. And don't get me wrong. Very, very much appreciated. It does go a long way. But just, engaging in the community, liking the streams, almost at 2,000 likes, subscribing, turning post notifications on. Those are also phenomenal ways to help grow and support the channel. But yeah, thank you everybody for your contributions today in whatever form they were. And I'll see you guys over on MSB. Look out for video in the next 30-ish minutes. Peace and love. Bye for now.